Awesome. Welcome back for another reaction video. I am the Southern Gunner, and today we're going to be looking at in Arsenal needing major investment to compete next year in the Premier League and across on all fronts. There's no doubt in my mind that we're gonna need some big time cash to be spent this summer. We've got some players that need to be moved around. And of course, as I stated on the last reaction video, we'll be doing a transfer uh, show starting next Saturday, which would be the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. We'll be doing it. Me and Tony Claude Gunner TV will be going through and we'll be combing through the transfer rumors and news. And we'll talk about what makes sense, what is outlandish, and we'll just kind of have an overall discussion about the transfer window. But I ran across this this clip here and thought it'd be a good video to break down. Watched just a little bit of it and decided I'd hold off on it. So we're gonna get right into this one here. This is let me get myself sorted here. I do this all the time. All right, and there we go. Let's get this in. And I'm still trying to navigate this, and bang, there we go. All right, we're gonna get right into this. Simon Jordan, club legend, and I have Martin Keown, and I have no idea who this gentleman is. I don't listen to Talk Sport that much these days. But someone who knows it is, just tell me who it is, whatever. But anyway, gonna get into this and let's break this down.
I think what Arteta has given us a team that was certainly in a fight and competitive for a large period of this Premier League season. 15 points better off than they were last year. So huge improvements to finish into the Champions League in second position. Still some way off City, and maybe that 5 points flatters Arsenal a little bit because City had the job done, didn't they? But no, I think it's been a really good season for Arsenal. Just the way they fell off was they have to be critical of themselves. They would have expected to have finished far better, to have been, trailing against Southampton, the team foot at the table, was a pivotal day when they'd already had the West Ham game, the Liverpool game, which were games we were in front of, and they would like to have seen it.
That was nerves, wasn't it? Because the first goal came about by a mistake.
West Ham away? Are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about Southampton in the first 20 seconds of the game.
No, I think with Ramsdale was doing what he'd done all season, and maybe he was just guilty of overplaying, but you trusted him to do that in all the previous games. So Southampton capitalised, didn't they, on overplaying from the back. And it was a game where I think it took a lot out of Arsenal, to be honest with you, having already come back from against Bournemouth earlier in the season in another home game. Those games against West Ham, I think Partey loses the ball, doesn't he? And
was that an error or was that overplaying?
Well, that was an error, and then Partey lost his place. And Jorginho came in, really good signing, good acquisition. I think it's going to be about acquisitions. I think it's going to be about strength of the squad. They weren't even in Europe last season. Now, of course, they're going to be in a big way.
Can they win the league under Mikel Arteta?
I mean, well, technically, we depending on how you look at it, we were in Europe. We got put out. We were in the Europa League. I think Martin probably means the Champions League. But this is the problem with Arsenal, is that everybody else knows exactly what needs to be done. And to a degree, the club knows what needs to be done. But we don't do it. And so what happens is, as long as the cracks are papered over and everything's cool, then all is well. But we always find ourselves in a situation, whether it's through injury, whether it's late in the year, players are starting to wear down, a la soccer, or we run into situations where we really need a specific type of player and we don't have it. That's when we realize that we don't have the transfer business done. And that's something that's plagued us for years. This even goes back to Wenger. We don't really do the correct business the way that we need to do it. But yeah, for what Martin, I don't know what he's talking about there, but we were in Europe. We were in the Europa League. We just got put out on penalty kicks. In this sense, we did not. Squad depth was a major issue because you're trying to compete on all these fronts, and you're pretty much running the same players out there, or the players that we have. Let's just be honest, the players that we have on the bench are not up to snuff for what we need to be competing on all fronts. So let's get back into it.
I think they can, whether they will or not. I think with Pep and the dominance that he has, I think we could be in for. This feels like just the beginning for Pep. Five Premier Leagues in 6, but this is a young group.
Just the beginning for Pep.
It is. Look at the team. Look, Haaland's coming. Alvarez is brand new. Akanji's brand new. Aki's formative season.
Just won the 3rd consecutive.
Stones. Everyone's getting way better, and I don't see that the Pep is tired, bored, had enough. I think it's perfection that he's building right now.
So they haven't got a chance, Arsenal.
No. I think Arsenal have got a really good opportunity to build upon what they've achieved so far this season. Haven't won anything, of course, but I like the look of the club. I like the people in the club. They've got the right people first. That's the right thing. The manager is really important. But they're up against City. They're going head to head, as Liverpool have found. Liverpool will re-emerge, by the way, this year. Yeah.
Martin Keown, the way he was just signing just then, it sounded as if it was the defeatist. City signing this person. They've got this person. You hear all this City signing and City signing and City signing. But where's we need Arsenal to do some signing. We need Arsenal to do some signing. We can compete. This is what you want your club legends to be saying is that, hey, we can compete with City. The belief, you have to instill that belief. And I think what has happened here is that everybody's mystified by Man City. I mean, they're a good team, but they can be beat. Clearly, they can be beat. Bremer's beat them twice. I mean, I think I'm sure my man Steve will let me know. I think it's Frankfurt. He said somebody was Frankfurt was telling me beat them this year, something along that line. They've been beaten. This team has been beaten. Everybody has this inferiority complex with Man City, as if you can't do anything to them. They're impervious to anything. No, the problem is that you've got to go head to head with them. Whether that's spending money or putting out a product that's competitive enough to beat them, or game planning. But they can definitely be beat. So I don't understand why Martin's giving this tone about City's got this, that, and the third. And I could care less about allegations of spending right now. It's not my problem. The problem is we need to shape up and realize that we can beat these teams, man. I mean, I don't understand why we're having this why he's even having this discussion. And I don't even know how Liverpool came up in this. But let's carry on.
But it's been an awful season for them. And it left the door open for someone.
Let's focus on Arsenal. Simon, you said they needed £200 million investment just to finish in the top 4.
Yeah, I think in order to, because we will see a re-emergence of Chelsea, we'll see a re-emergence of Liverpool. It'll be interesting to see how Newcastle gets on, because I think out of the pack in the years to come that might change the orthodoxy in the Premier League might be Newcastle, because they've got the ability to be able to do it with the financial resources behind them, and that's going to happen. If people think it's not, I mean,
wealthiest club in world football.
Yeah, people made the observation, and I thought that she was quite right to do it, Amanda Staveley. It puts pressure on people when she said they're going to win the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, the Premier League, and the Champions League, but they're going to, because they're going to buy that position. They're going to spend a lot of money and they're going to invest a lot of time in building the best in class, because the Saudis don't do second, right?
That's a fact.
Get that into our heads. They're not going to do second.
Simon is 100% correct in that. You're going to see, and I've talked about this several times with Lee Gunner. You're going to see teams that are going to come back next year that are going to be on their A game. They're going to plan better. They're going to get better players. They're going to have a little bit more foundation. Your Chelseas of the world. I mean, Chelsea finished in 12th. Pochettino's going over there. I'm sure he'll drum up something to make them better. They'll at least get in the top 10. At least. I would not. I can't see them being in the bottom half of the table again. So I mean, that's just a little bit of getting better is going to make things a little bit tougher. You've got Brighton, who's in Europe now. You've got Aston Villa. You've got Newcastle. You've got just Spurs is trying to get it together. Liverpool's going to be mad as a hornet's nest. They're going to probably go out and buy 2 or 3 players. They've got to replace some midfielders as well. You got United, who's becoming, getting themselves sorted out, and they'll really be rolling if they win this FA Cup. And of course, City's going to probably move some players around to freshen up for another run. So yeah, Simon's right. We need, 200 million is. I would almost say we need 275, 300. Because you're going to need to replace. We've got players that need to be replaced. Rob Holding needs to go. We need to bring in another center back. We need to bring in Declan Rice and Caicedo. Both. Not one, both. And yes, it's going to cost some money. I'm hearing people saying, oh, well, what's this money going to come from? We're in the Champions League now because we were told that. This is what we heard. But we got to get in the Champions League because we can get a better grade of player. We can get a better grade of player. Yeah, not only do you have to get in it, you got to make sure you stay in it. In order to do that, you've got to invest. There's a lot that needs to go on here. And Simon's right. The money has to be spent. And you better do it. You better get a team that can compete. So that way, even if and when Newcastle decides to break glass and go full throttle, you've got a team that can compete. So yeah, a cash injection is going to be needed. And the Crockies, somebody that's over here in the United States, I know they got money. They need to spend it. And truth is, they have spent some money. They spent some money. We spent $500 million. The question is going to be, what are we spending the money on, and who? That's the question that people are going to have to ask this summer and have to look at. That has to be brought up this summer. Are we buying what we need? We don't need any more projects at this club. We don't need any more projects. We don't need any players from Corinthians. We don't need any players from River Plate. We don't need any of that. We need players that are world class, have a pedigree, and ready to go. It's okay if you want to bring in a veteran or two, but don't let that be the only thing that we bring in. We've got to build out a squad that's going to have to compete on all fronts next year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've got to put out a squad that's going to compete. Otherwise, we'll just be kind of floundering around like we did this year, out of the cup competitions and looking around. And I don't think anybody wants to deal with that next year. At least I know I don't.
So they're going to have a battle at some point with Manchester City. It's difficult to see past Manchester City. Arsenal themselves showed a lot of frailties and fragilities that I didn't expect them to show in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 games of the season. They need a goal scorer that's going to score 25 goals a season, because Jesus is not going to do that. They need better centre halves to be able to support them when playing.
He's 100% on Jesus, and I really like Jesus. Jesus is a really good player. I really like him. But Jesus is not the player that's going to give you 20, 25, 30, 35 goals. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. And there's no guarantee that Brother Odegaard is going to score 15 goals or 16, however many he had this year. And then there's no guarantee that Saka is going to score as many goals. We don't know this. But I do know one thing. We do need a striker that no matter, a fox in the box, no matter what, if he's in front of the goal, he strikes fear. He can score a goal. Because we were in situations last year, even in that Liverpool game, we really could have won that game there had everything worked there towards the end. At the end, if you go back and watch it. We had a series of play there about 2 or 3 times where we should have really scored and we could have won that game. And when you're in critical games, you're not going to get a whole bunch of shots on goal, but the shots on goal that you do get, you need to put them away. There's a lot of times in some of those games where we didn't put teams away. And they came back, tied the game up and ended the draw. We need that. Sometimes, we playing against these low blocks. We need a lump. We need a player we can just cross it in, Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, and they can get up there and boom, head the ball in. This is what we need. We need this. We need this. This is not, just looking for the word I'm trying to look for, just a luxury. It's not a luxury. We need it. We actually need a striker that can score. That is potent, that they're going to score. That's not knocking Jesus. But I'm here to tell you, Eddie Nketiah ain't it. And I'm sorry. I know he's in the room, but that ain't it. That ain't it. I know that is not it. No. That is not it. We need a proven striker. Simon's 100% correct on this.
As not fit. And they need more options to be able to change the game or protect the game.
I think midfield's another area, isn't it?
That's the point I was going to
Of
go
course,
to.
they're going to sign Caicedo.
And in order to do that, because the other thing that comes on the radar is, I'm not suggesting that the Gianni Van Bronckhorst experience is one that needs to be in Arteta's mind, but they went from getting the Champions League Rangers to being smashed to pieces in the Champions League, and Gianni Van Bronckhorst being absolutely trashed in the media and subsequently losing his job as a result of it. Arsenal have got a different landscape here now. They could find themselves in between two stools. They could find themselves going to the Champions League, not doing particularly well in that, and then finding it impacting upon their form in the Premier League, which is why I make the argument that in order to maintain where they are now, not just second place or the top four, they're going to have to invest and invest heavily.
That's the big challenge, isn't it? Because juggling Champions League football and Premier League football on a weekly basis is going to be difficult. This season, we saw that maybe Arteta was overplaying the likes of Bukayo Saka in the Europa League games. He played all 8 of those.
Saka, I want to say, I'm not 100% on this number, but I believe he played 75 of 78 games or something like that. He played just about almost all the games. I mean, that you're asking for trouble. You're asking for trouble. It was a miracle that we avoided major injury with Saka this year. It was a miracle. It was an absolute miracle. And he can't. We saw what happened there the last 12 games of the season. Just started tapering off. I mean, of course, this Wolves game, it looked like a fresh man, of course, but when it was crunch time, you could see it wearing. And mentally, we've got to have players that are locked in, that are mentally ready. And even for Arteta, because Arteta, in theory, this is me talking now. I think he struggles with players with strong personalities. We're gonna have some strong personalities in the club. So you're not going to compete if you don't have any players with some attitude in this club. We've got to have some players with some form of attitude or a chip on their shoulder. There has to be a mentality change here because we were too frail coming down the stretch this year in critical games. Southampton, Liverpool, and West Ham. Those 3 games stand out to me the most. Because those were games that mentally we weren't there. And that's the type of player we need. We've got to have players that are mentally locked in and ready to go. Ready to go. And that's going to require players possibly with a strong attitude, with a strong mindset. And Arteta's going to have to get comfortable coaching players like that. That's part of your job duty. And also I'll throw this out there too. We've got to get comfortable with players coming in that may be better than what we already have and have competition. No player on this team should be able to just feel comfortable in their position. This is Arsenal Football Club. Remember, the club is the star. The club comes first. So whatever is best for the club is what's best for the club. And if that means bringing in a player that's better than what we already have, then by all means. It is what it is.
Season, is that why he ended up being quiet towards the end of the campaign?
I mean, look, we are now in the longest Premier League season we've ever had. So we've had 11 months of fixtures of competitive football. And we do a month's training to get ready for that. So it's been a 12 years calendar for the players.
12-month calendar.
Yeah. So and normally we're looking at 10 months.
That's because of the World Cup in the middle of it,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So that's obviously playing a part. And it's not ideal for such a young man, Saka, to be. I'd be interested to see now what part he takes in the remainder of this season, because we have 2 friendly games, 2 competitive games for England, deep into June. So we're finishing 16th, 19th of June with 2 more fixtures. So I expect maybe that Gareth Southgate might rest him. I don't know, but it's been difficult for Saka. But the underlying factor is Arsenal.
Well, the underlying factor is
they need to buy players, but find the right players.
But both seasons have ended.
You've got to be really you can't make mistakes in the transfer market.
Let's go back to last season. They threw away a place in the.
You know, I'm hard on Martin Keown sometimes, but what he just said right there was spot on. This is not the transfer window. We can't have what we had last year, where we had players that we knew wanted to come to us, whether you wanted to get Mudryk or not. We had players that wanted to come and we didn't act on it. Or we go for a player and they tell us one thing and we show what not even a third of what they asked for. Everybody is looking for players this year. Everybody is looking. Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Newcastle, everybody. You name them. If they're in Europe, they're looking for them. We don't have time to waste this year. We don't have any time to waste. Players that need to be moved on need to be moved on. Players that have no use in this club, they need to be moved on. I think I heard Rance tell Lee, if you're a player that if you're not willing to pay $30 or $40 million for the player, we don't need to be renewing contracts. We need to be moving those players on. We need to be moving them on. And yes, that's even Mr. Nketiah. I know we paying him 100. You know, we pay him half of it up front and move him on. It's time to go. Unless you plan on playing him in the Carabao Cup. But it's time to move some of these players on. Maitland-Niles, Lokonga. You know, I'm not the biggest Vieira fan. I would probably try to get what you can get for him, move him on and get something better. It's okay to say that, you know what, we probably made a mistake on this. Let's try to get something for him. You can still get something for him because of the Arsenal tax. So you can get him. You can get him out of here. But we really need to look at that. We've got to get quality players, and we've got to get quality players fast. We cannot haggle. No more haggling and penny pinching and pick and pulling. We cannot keep doing it, y'all. Got to get what we need. And we have to be swift. Because if we're swift, we can get it done. If we're not swift, what'll happen is somebody come in for our players. And it's kind of like what Newcastle did with Bruno. They'll come right in, boop, and then you're looking up and they're over there. We got to move quickly. Got to move quickly, y'all. Lot of talent dropped down in relegation yesterday. That could, you know, Madison is an easy look in. That's why I said I would move Vieira on. I'm Matt. You know, here comes Madison. You know, that's just me. I'm sure if you want to argue, you know, put your suggestion down in the chat below. But, you know, and I would love to see that. You know, put your suggestions down there and tell me what would you do. But I think what we need to do is move quick and we need to move swiftly. No time to waste this year.
Top four this season, they've dropped off at the last moment in the title race. Do they need to get players in that have got more mental strength? Is that
I think experience is a good one. I think it's heavy terrain that you go through, and it is mental gymnastics to try to stay in the race. And I think that's where they fell away at the end. But Man City put them under incredible amount of pressure.
But that happens at the top of the table.
It does, but when they're better equipped now next season to deal with this. They'll know where the pressure comes.
Well, they're going to get.
It'll be interesting because that's the equivalency that people make, is that as a result of this experience, that they will be better and that the younger players will come further forward and it'll be a better side. I don't think they will unless they really supplement this playing squad, because I think 248 days, I know these statistics can be used and whipped up and turned into something that they aren't. But in this instance, this team are on top of them. No one's been on top of the league in the history of the Premier League for a longer period of time and never won the league.
Because there was six weeks in the middle of it where they were on top of the table because there was a World Cup. There's a lot of days in that.
Of course, I understand. Notwithstanding that, still, if you take that out of the equation and make it 204 days, it is still an inordinate amount of time to be top of the league. And I probably think that statistic will probably stand the test of time as well.
Yeah,
being the longest side.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, you know, let him finish his point. Then I'll say.
So you
something.
look at it and say, I think Arteta got found out against Brighton. I think he got found out against Man City that there's only one way they can currently play. And when people beat that aggressive press, Arsenal don't know what to do next. And so they've got to look at the quality of player they can adapt with. But I think there's a lot more to be positive about. But I think if we're being realistic, if the ambition of the boardroom isn't as big as it needs to be, then I can see Arsenal finding themselves in a difficult season next year.
It will.
He's 100% correct in that. Kroenkes, the board, Edu, Arteta, they all have to really sit down this year and they have to really look at this thing, and they really have to go, we're in Champions League. We did fairly well during the season. We did bottle it. How can we fix this? And how much do we need to throw at this to fix it? In this, what's going to happen next year is because we're going to probably spend some money. The pressure is going to be ramped up on Arteta, which it needs to be anyway. It's time to stand and deliver. Simon brings up a great point. Down the stretch, we were playing these teams, and Arteta was basically running out the same team week in, week out. And everybody knew what he was doing. There was nothing fresh. There was nothing, there was nobody he could turn to because he looked at the bench and there was nothing there. The problem with that is these are all players that were bought last year. So my concern, and I said this during the season, was that if we're buying these players and we can't play them, that means we made some serious errors, which then I got to go back to Edu and wonder why are we buying these players that we can't use. And this is why I said certain players just need to be moved on and we need to buy what we need. Some of these players we're going to have to buy are going to have to be one-year projects that are going to have to come in and get us to the next level. And then next year we're going to have to go back, or in January, we're going to have to go back in and see what we can get there. Otherwise, it's going to take a little bit of time to get the team up to surplus of what we need. And this is why I said I'd rather just move what we can't use, get what we need, blend it with what we already know works, and then let's try to build on that. And let's try to compete. But I can tell you now, the team that we have right now is not fit to compete in the Carabao, FA Cup, Champions League, and try to maintain our top 4 status and challenge for a title next year. It's almost virtually impossible. That's the reality that Simon's talking about. Realistically, you have to look at the squad where it is and go, nah, we're not. It's not there. And I know someone's going to challenge me in the chat and they're going to say, well, we finished in second place. Yeah, but that table's not going to look like that again next year, people. I'm telling you now, it's not going to look like that. It's not going to look like that. We've got to get quality players in with a winning mentality and a strong mentality. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, then I'm sorry. But that's what we're going to need to challenge. It's time to get out of the mindset of just top 4 people. We've got to start challenging. And Simon's right. We're going to have to spend the money. The money has to be spent. We've got to have quality players that when Arteta goes to the bench, these players can come in and these players can get the job done. And we've got to have it. We need super subs. Last time you heard that, throw it out. We hadn't had too many super subs as of late. I mean, Reese came on and saved us 1 or 2 times. Even in the room came on and saved us a couple of times. But we need guys that dogs. We need warriors. Zulu. We need warriors, man. We got to have them. That's what we got to have, people.
Interesting.
The messages are that there's going to be money.
Yeah, but Rice is going to be a huge expense, right? In terms of wages.
I've already said I think it's too much money. I'm not so sure. You're saying Casado and Rice. I mean, have they got big enough pockets to do that?
And we got to get out of that too. It's too much money. Do we have the money to do it? Arsenal's recent jersey sales, I think Lee told me, was the best opening day jersey sale, an all-time jersey sale. Brother, if you watch this, Lee, put it in the chat for me. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I can just say if it's 80 quid or whatever it is, $80 times however many has been sold, take away 20% for tax, 5% for this, and 10% for that. It's still end up with enough money to where you can go buy some players. Ticket sales, they're making money coming over here in the summer. So yeah, there's money. There is money available. The Kroenkes have given Edu and Arteta almost $1 billion in 4 years. Money is readily available. We're going to probably have to sell. Like I said, we've got to get the dead wood out. But money's available. And that's the issue that we'll talk about on the transfer show with me and Tony. We'll talk about the deadwood sales. That's something that's not being talked about a lot. Is the money that we're making on players going out. We're going to that's probably going to be the first thing we'll discuss. But money's available. That's tried and true. Money's available. We spent $35 million on Vieira and 25 or 28 million on Kivior. Money's available. I don't hear anything about inflation and all this stuff. Money's available. The money is there. If we've got money to go buy a dog, we've got money to spend on what we need.
I don't believe they have. I think it'd be one or the other of those two.
Do you?
Oh, they've certainly got big enough pockets as well.
Can they
choose to.
take both of those? I think now it's a lot
Well, they're
easier.
going to need both.
We need both.
Still running Xhaka.
But they're a Champions League. Now they're in the Champions League. Clubs will see that. Players will see that and say, okay, they're more attractive. Look what they offer me. Champions League football. They're the team that came second in the Premier League. Can they make the next step? So I think now they're a more attractive proposition for players that are prospective players that are coming in. It's about identifying those right people and players.
150 million used to be sort of the benchmark that you spent every season as a big football
Dropping the
club
bucket now.
in terms of competing inside the top six. 150 to 200 million. You've got Ten Hag coming out almost preposterously and suggesting that Man United didn't spend enough to match their. If you compare it to Chelsea, no one's going to spend that kind of money. But Man United spent 250 million, 243 million euros last season. And Ten Hag is suggesting that they didn't spend enough, they didn't match the heavy spending of other sides, which is just nonsense. My point is this: that's the level you're going to have to spend at now.
Yeah, and I think I said 250, 275, even 3. I mean, if you're serious about it, if you're really serious about challenging, you're probably going to be having to spend just over 200, 250, 275 million. And that's what, just like, if you're getting two players like Caicedo and Declan Rice, you're just going to have to do it if that's what you want to do. That's what you're going to have to do. I mean, we can't, gone are the days where you can just get, we'll just get one and we'll see how Vieira works out this year. And if he pans out, then this money saved, money on the books. No. Champions League now, buddy. No, you need to buy what you need, and you need to do it quick. You got to do it. You heard what Simon just said. Ten Hag was raising hell over 243, and he still didn't think that was enough. I mean, and also back to what Martin said. You know, this narrative about they're more attractive now. They're in the Champions League. Well, what was stopping Manchester United? Manchester United, I think Casemiro, I can't remember which window they got him in. He shows up. I mean, they were getting players. I mean, we got to stop. We got to stop trying to tuck away things. We're Arsenal, y'all. There's no reason why somebody won't want to come to us. We're Arsenal Football Club, the third biggest club in England. No, there's no reason why if we made an approach to a player, that we shouldn't be able to get them if we were serious about it. I mean, David Dean did it for years. I mean, Wenger was doing it. He pick up the phone and boom. Now, of course, he had his mishaps, but for the most part, Wenger would go pull some of these deals off. We've got to stop that, and that's one of my criticisms of Martin. Martin knows better than that. He knows better, and instead of he should be coming out now. What he should have did was he should have asked Simon, "Well, Simon, how much do you really think we need to spend?" Because Simon's been, I think Simon was the youngest owner, or he was either owner. He was one of these teams. It might have been Palace. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but Simon has an idea. He kind of knows how this works because he's been there. So I would have asked him, say, "Hey man, what you think we need, and how much?" And then I would have came back and I would have said, well, yeah, if we plan on competing next year, then yeah, you're correct. We're going to need to spend, and we're going to need to see Kroenke come out of the pocket. It's time for players. It's time for our older players to start coming out saying, hey, man, we demand a little bit more. Hey, we demand the standards. It goes back to standards. It's okay to criticize every once in a while. It's okay to criticize. You can't get any better if you don't get constructive criticism. And the criticism is that we have not spent money where it needs to be spent. We have the money. Simon alluded to. Yeah, they've got the money. Are they buying what they need? Are we buying what we need? That's the key to this. That's the key.
To be competitive. Now, what does that mean to Arsenal? Do they have the money? Well, we know Stan Kroenke certainly has the money. What does it do to their financial fair play by spending 250 million, putting people on 4-year contracts and having them depreciate at 60 million pound a year? Can they carry that? Because Arsenal previously have been able to carry it. And I would suggest that they can spend 150 million last year. They can easily spend 250 million this year because they've got an extra 30, 40, 50 million available to them by being in the Champions League. So all of those are just choices. They have a choice, and that's whether they want to make the choice to go to the next level.
There you go. Spot on. Spot on. 100% correct. This summer, we have the choice of do we want to move to that next level. The last season is over with now. We squandered it. We threw it away. We're moving on to this season. And yes, Simon is 100% correct. This is the summer where the Kroenkes, Arteta, and Edu, as they're sitting around at the barbecue or sitting around or out there at Joshua Tree or wherever they're going to be at, and they say, hey, brothers, let's go challenge for this title. And in that, there's going to be added pressure on Arteta. There's going to be pressure on Edu, and there's ultimately going to be pressure on the Kroenkes as well. But we're here now. We're here. It's time for pressure to be put on. It's time for us to Arsenal needs to start operating under pressure. We need to get used to it. Pressure builds champions. Pressure builds champions. And it's time. This transfer window is critical. This is probably out of all of my years of watching Arsenal. And I've been watching a long time since 96. This Arsenal transfer window for me, after everything I know and just looking at where we are now, is probably one of the most important, if not the most important transfer window of all time. Because we're getting to a point in the Premier League where the money, other teams are playing with super money, and the only way to combat that is to build a team that's competitive, that can always hang around and be competitive. We don't have that luxury anymore of going out getting players that players don't know about. We're in the social media age. Everybody knows about everybody. You got players dancing and twerking on social media to try to go to a club. We got players liking and following. So there's no more being able to do like we used to do when you grab a player and you pop up. Next thing you know, they're Highbury, scarves held up, Wenger standing there smiling. They're sitting up in the stands taking pictures, and next day it's on the BBC. No, those days are over. You got to be ruthless. We got to start acting like a ruthless club in this transfer window. We need to send people on, move into something better, and we need to be ready to compete. Bottom line, we need our transfer business done early, swiftly, and quickly. We don't need to be waiting to the last day. We need players that can bed in early. They can go in on tours. They can get used to people, get used to being around folks. New surroundings. They need to be able to make friends, get used to the culture, get used to the city life, get used to, everything, hustle and bustle. We don't need players trying to fly over the last second, coming off in international duty. They're trying to play and they get injured. No. Get these guys in early so that they can bed. It was quite refreshing last year to see Jesus on the preseason tour. It was quite refreshing to see that, and we need more of that this year. We need our players in early. We need to move quickly. This Declan Rice, Caicedo deal, they need to get them done. Get it done. Whatever they want, pay it, and let's move on. Let's not haggle. Let's not try to hope we can sell Nketiah for this to get that. Nope. There should already be money allocated for 2 players immediately. Immediately. And this is why I said I'm holding Edu's feet to the fire this summer. I'm doing it. Me and Tony, Claude, Gunner TV. We're going to be holding the feet to the fire. I don't want any more 14-year-olds from Brazil. We don't need them. We don't need it. We don't need them. Not right now. We need top-tier leaders, mentally strong players. We need Zulu. That's what we need. We need Zulu. Hope you enjoyed this breakdown, this reaction video. Please make sure that you subscribe, Southern Gooner. Hit the like button on your way out. And we'll be back for another one. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.